I think the problem with movies today is that they don't take themselves seriously enough. Not every film falls prey to this, and many only do it just a little, but it seems to have come to just about every film, every franchise, and every genre. And when I looked at the actual facts, it really isn't all the films, it's mainly Marvel and some of the bigger franchises, but what the biggest franchises do today, the little guys will be doing tomorrow. Used to, parody was for us, the little guys, the consumers. We made fun of Hollywood's conventions, of their genres, of their characters and their tropes. But now Hollywood is doing this for us. We used to try to emulate Hollywood's slick style, and now they're trying to copy ours. Most of this comedy is genuinely funny, and it's hilarious, and it has a place. But now every film seems to partake of this, even if just for a little. This comedy can sometimes seem out of place, and can jar the viewer out of the experience. These films do have a place, and in small doses they're great, but now that everyone's doing it, it's not quite the same. When films like Deadpool or just about any film by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller come out, they're hilarious, they're different, they're a different style. These were the pioneers, but now all the films are doing it. The Meg has moments where it just can't take itself seriously. And yes, it's funny, but it doesn't really fit in this type of movie. In a moment like, Now We're All Standing. It's funny, it's in a lot of movies like this, and I'm glad they're pointing it out. And the Guardians of the Galaxy isn't as bad as some of the others, but sometimes we want something more. Sometimes we actually want to believe in the movie that we're seeing. We like being taken to a new world, and these films make fun of that. In Ant-Man and the Wasp, there's some genuinely funny moments, but sometimes we actually want suspense. Sometimes we want something more than just comedy. And it's not just Marvel films. Films come out and they claim to be self-aware. They know that they're cheesy. Films like Peter Rabbit will have a great emotional moment and then destroy it with a joke, all in the name of being self-aware. Yes, it's hilarious, but now it's being overused. Films like The Lego Movie 2, they have some great moments. There's some good real comedy. But when they make fun of themselves so much, it's hard to believe the actual drama taking place. We can contrast this with older films, like the original Ghostbusters. This film's official genre is comedy, yet it has less jokes than most serious films that come out today. Another film is Back to the Future. If this film were made today, it'd be ripe for parody, for self-awareness, for understanding that going back in time is stupid. It'd have tons of self-aware jokes and make fun of itself. But this film has great characters, cheesy, hilarious stuff, and powerful moments because it believes in itself. Yes, it may be cheesy, but they accept it, and they make a great movie out of it. Another problem with movies today is that every character is funny. In the past, we'd have a film like National Treasure come out with some great characters, and one of them would be the comic relief. Like in Jaws, one of them is the comic relief. Amidst all the peril and action, they could deliver a good one-liner. But now, every character's funny. In the new Ghostbusters, every character is the comic relief. Sure, it's funny, but who are we supposed to be behind? And take Infinity War. We have Iron Man, Star-Lord, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and the rest of the Guardians. Every one of them is funny. And when they're going up against Thanos, things don't seem quite as serious. Not until the very end do things take a sudden turn. When every character is funny, nothing is serious. I don't have a problem with everyone being funny. There's some great films that have done it, and most of the jokes these characters make are genuinely hilarious. But sometimes we want something more. We want to see actual drama and actual emotion. The final problem I think is besetting movies today is bathos. Bathos is when a scene builds up acting like it's epic, but it's not. It is hilarious when it happens. I really enjoy it, but sometimes it's out of place. Animation started it with these animated films making fun of real ones, but now the real ones are making fun of themselves. Some flat out embrace it like Thor or Guardians of the Galaxy, and that's fine, but I think you should choose one or the other. Now films like The Last Jedi will have a joke like the Jakku one. Funny? Yes. Star Wars? No. A film like Aquaman really embraces itself, but it'll have one or two moments that really throw it off. Same with Ultron in the second Avengers movie. If a character is supposed to come across menacing, they probably shouldn't be making jokes. It is funny, we do laugh, but the menace of that character goes down. You can contrast this with the first Avengers. Every moment is taken seriously, and the comedy comes from the way characters explain things or make fun of each other. It's not all a joke, but the dialogue is all funny. You can have comedy, you can have wit, you can have humor. I think every film needs it, and films that don't have it seem to be missing something, but the style of humor needs to be right. Not every film needs to be self-parody. Not every film needs to have every character as the comic relief, and not every film needs to indulge in bathos. We need variety in our movies, and the sad thing is the ones that do take themselves seriously seem to flop at the box office. It's not because they take themselves seriously, it's because they just aren't good movies. Take for example Crimes of Grindelwald, Mortal Engines, Bumblebee, Dumbo, The Hobbit. These films all take themselves seriously. Humor in and of itself doesn't drive box office returns. Some of these just flat out aren't good movies, but there is still good out there. Avatar took itself seriously. Wonder Woman did. Black Panther did. Some of the Star Wars films have. And when they embrace it and don't worry about being self-aware, they can have great films. I think the solution is to choose one way or the other. You can have a great film that indulges in bathos, or you can have a great film that doesn't. Just choose one side or the other. And let me reiterate, this stuff is hilarious. It is funny. I laugh just about every time, but it's just out of place. In most of these films, they aren't too bad, but they just have a hint of it, and it'll throw you out of the film. But why do films do this? Why do films not take themselves seriously? I think it comes down to instant gratification over movie moments. If you're a filmmaker, you like to hear the audience reacting, and there's no easier way to do it than comedy. You can wait an hour and a half before you have a movie moment that really impacts the audience, but they don't show it. Or you can have a joke every minute and see the audience engaging. The audience may laugh throughout the entire movie, or they may remember the movie when they get home. Part of this problem is the screenwriters themselves. I don't have anything against them, but when they come in on script by committee, the easiest thing to do is to polish up the jokes, not to establish movie moments. Movie moments are harder to make. You have to set them up, stretch them out, and then deliver. As Robert McKee says, comedy is pure. If the audience laughs, it works. If it doesn't laugh, it doesn't work. End of discussion. Comedy is so much easier to put in a film than to dig deeper, and most films are fine. As Robert McKee also says, while wit lightens a telling, it doesn't alone make it a true comedy. You can have humor in a film, but you don't have to turn it into a full-out comedy. And even though it's easier to have instant gratification compared to movie moments, there's other reasons involved. I think it's because these filmmakers are scared. They're willing to settle for good but not great. They're willing to get a laugh but not a memory. And they're willing to tell jokes at the expense of a story in order to get an instant payoff. The following is an excerpt from Robert McKee's story. To avoid the accusation, this script is melodramatic, many avoid writing big scenes, passionate, powerful events. Instead, they write minimalistic sketches, in which little, if anything, happens, thinking they're subtle. This is folly. Nothing human beings do in and of itself is melodramatic, and human beings are capable of anything. Daily newspapers record acts of enormous self-sacrifice and cruelty, of daring and cowardliness, of saints and tyrants, from Mother Teresa to Saddam Hussein. Anything you can imagine human beings doing, they have already done, and in many ways you cannot imagine. None of it is melodrama. It's simply human. Melodrama is not the result of overexpression, but of under-motivation. Not writing too big, but writing with too little desire. The power of an event can only be as great as the sum total of its causes. We feel a scene is melodramatic if we cannot believe that motivation matches action. Writers from Homer to Shakespeare to Bergman have created explosive scenes no one would call melodrama, because they knew how to motivate the characters. If you can imagine high drama or comedy, write it, but lift the forces that drive your characters to equal or surpass the extremities of their actions, and we'll embrace you for taking us to the end of the line. Robert McKee pinpoints it on the head. Filmmakers today are scared. Writers today are scared. Directors today are scared. They're scared of their films being melodramatic. They want instant gratification instead of a movie moment, and so they write comedy, and it's funny, but sometimes it's out of place. And I think this is one of the biggest problems with movies today.